Welcome to the Own It Powercast, the place to be when you get serious about making big changes and accelerating growth in your life and in your relationships. Finally create the life you've always wanted, living life on your own terms. Learn how to take your fear and turn it into powerful choices that will create sustained change. Now your host, Mary Baker.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to Own It Powercast, a place where you can come to get what you need to move yourself forward. And as you know by now, my name is Mary Baker, and I'm here to give you the education, the tools, and the motivation to identify exactly what's in your way today and what you can do about it. Because remember, empowerment always comes from doing. It comes from truly identifying what's really going on, what's really causing the issues, and what positive changes you need to make to increase your self-confidence and take charge. Okay, so we can't talk about empowerment unless we talk about owning it, right? I mean, that would make sense. And now that you've defined in the last episode who you truly want to be, what that looks like, what that feels like, you did the gap analysis between where you really want to be and where you are. Now we want to look into how do we own that. And if you didn't get a chance to do that, I would strongly encourage you to pause this episode and go back to episode 4 and then come back here and join us. And I think you'll be on the same page that way. And by the way, where are you with your gap chart? You know, what did you decide were your bridge steps to where you want to be? So I just want to check in with you around that. What emotions may have been coming up this week? You know, it's normal for this to be such a mixed bag too, right? Just a combination of like fear, excitement, dread, frustration, it's not happening fast enough, some impatience with life, impatience with yourself, and also, to contradict all that, some resistance. Maybe putting your feet in some concrete for a moment and saying, nope, I don't want to do this, I can't do it. I just want to say that's normal and it's okay. Whether you allow it to run things for you or not is completely up to you. What about some of your thoughts, your thought processes, like the litany of reasons why you can't, quote unquote, do this, why you can't have those dreams? Maybe wondering how all the pieces will fit, what they will be influenced by, irrational worries. Basically, trying to figure out all the outcomes ahead of time. What about ideas, though? Did you come up with some cool strategies? You know, it's such a dichotomy between getting real, like what are the real obstacles, and getting really excited, and the hell with the obstacles, on the other hand. And did you feel some hope that you could see a little bit of light because you're starting to crack the door open just a bit, just enough to show you that it really can be different, that you can be different? So today we're going to segue into taking responsibility for all those things that you want to need. No more excuses now, and I say that lovingly, but I really mean it, because it ain't about anyone else. So make sure if you find yourself falling into the trap of what I call the victim stance, which means they won't let me, I can't do this because of they, because of it, about nouns outside of yourself, basically. Try to get your focus off of what you cannot control and put the word yet on the end. People don't support me yet. I don't have the money yet, because that implies it's possible that could change. It's important to identify the first 3 things that you need. You know, pick one of your aspects about yourself that you want to be different. Like we talked about last time, is it tangible? Is it money? Is it time? Or is it intangible, right? You know, is it my fear around outcomes? Fear I might not be making the right choices. Is it shame and guilt? Shame and guilt might come up, and that's normal. This is a really vulnerable time when we begin something anew, especially something huge. Especially if we're a little embarrassed that maybe it took us this long, embarrassed about where we really are today because we're just shining the light on this. Maybe we kept it hidden for a long time from ourselves and from others. It can really dredge up the not good enough feelings. Push them away for the moment. You're finally making things right with you now. So you're not denying that, but you're not wallowing in it. And in terms of guilt, if there's any earned guilt, like, yeah, I've let myself down, I put others first for too long, let that instead be a motivator that you don't want to be here anymore and you don't want to come back to this space. And then finally, I just want to reiterate, you're going to need a lot of support. You're going to need encouragement, and you're going to need lots of healthy love. You'll need loving, gentle, but firm accountability when it gets hard. And you're going to need hope to keep going. So get your dream board going, whatever you want to create. Find a place to start getting excited on that board. It's the place in the movie where the main character grabs support and determination. You know when the music starts up and you see them tackling all the footwork because they finally decided, we have to do this. One of my favorite quotes that my mentor used to tell me years ago, and it took me a while to get my head wrapped around this, it says, you don't think your way into a new kind of living. You live your way into a new kind of thinking. And that's by Henry Nouwen. Hopefully I'm not mispronouncing his name. Now that hurts your head for a moment. You really have to think about it. But basically what that means is you have to try things, and then your subconscious, the thing that loves experiential data, sees what's happening and evaluates. So just start, and then you can figure out what you think about it. So the other thing that you're going to need is you're going to need some boundaries around you. Now, after we get into needs next month, we're going to be diving into a couple months of boundaries because, like I've said before, it's such a huge paradigm and so important. But just for now, I just want you to think about, if you're going to start this bridge, the pieces to the bridge, you're going to need some space and you're going to need some time. Going to need some time and space to think, to ground, to get centered. Even if it's 10 minutes a day, try to carve that out for yourself. Look at your bridge pieces. Again, keep telling your subconscious, I want this, I want this, I want this. It will help you. We have to talk about toxicity versus real, genuine support. And we'll get into more of this later, like I said. For now, I just encourage you to share this vulnerable stuff that you're working on with safe people. And people who don't tend to judge you, people who are working on themselves, and people who have given you the vibe that they want everything for your highest good, and it's not about them. Not people who will feel threatened by your dream. Because one of the biggest things we need to start doing is to safeguard this if this is going to happen. If you have a plant and you never feed it and water it, put it in the sun, it's not going to grow. We know that. And so these are your precious things that you're growing within yourself. So we have to be very careful, and we have to be intentional and conscientious. So I want to get into an exercise that you can do, and even if you're walking or you're driving, whatever, I just encourage you to visualize. If you're at home, if you can take a second and grab a piece of paper and a pen or crayons or whatever you want to use. Some people like to use a lot of colors in this exercise. So, and again, if you need to go home and do this later, that's cool too. But if you're just listening and can't write it down, just visualize it. So I want you to take that paper, and I want you to draw a square. Now, you can take up as much as the paper as you want. Just leave a little bit on the periphery, on the edges. Leave a little room. So this square is going to represent your garden that represents you. And inside your garden are your gifts, your talents, all your passions, things that you love, things that are so important to you. Maybe your values, your desires are in there, your wishes, things you would love to have in your life, or things you already have in your life. All the things that you need, all that great stuff. So I want you to take a few moments and either draw or write words representing, or just visualize inside the square whatever you want to represent several of these. Plant them however you like. And there's no right or wrong way to do this. Just draw or write whatever feels right for you. Also, draw whatever else you want in this special place. Like, is it a tree? Is it a waterfall? Is it a pond? Is it a beautiful garden bench? What do you want to put in here? And why? The why is most important. And if it's something really intricate, just mark the space and you can come back to this and flesh it out later. But right now, I just want you to take in the moment. These are all your special things. Your gifts, your loves, your wishes. They're so beautiful. Some have been created by you. Some given to you. How does this feel? Now, it's really important that you safeguard those treasures. The enclosure is to keep the bad out, to keep the judgment, the jealousy, the control, and the toxic out of your garden. Those unfortunate people who would trample on these things rather than offer you to help water and feed and nurture and take care of them and help them grow. So look at your enclosure. What do you want to construct that out of and why? Think about that for a moment. Draw it if you can. Is there a gate? If so, who gets to come through this gate and why? When? How often? Do they have to be invited in? And what are your healthy conditions for this, to let them in? Writing these things down does help, by the way, hint, hint, to keep reminding you what your boundaries are. So essentially, you are responsible for safeguarding your dreams. This garden represents your core vulnerable self. And others don't just try to ruin things. We allow them. We allow them by letting them into the sacred instead of having them earn that kind of trust. We don't set boundaries with them. We keep them in our lives. When we get into needs next month and boundaries thereafter, we'll dig in deep into all this stuff. But for now, I just want you to take in this visual and this representation of what is very, very special about you and to you. And I just want you to think about today, you're going to start to take more and more responsibility for safeguarding that. Now, some of this, we have to get into the concept of detachment. Because in order to really, set the boundary between where you end and others begin, we have to work on detachment. And detachment, I think, well, clients tell me all the time, they really just don't understand it at first. Does it mean I don't care, Mary? Does it mean I'm apathetic, that I don't give a crap? No, it's detachment with lots of compassion. It's not that you don't care about their feelings and their struggles. You just separate that out from your stuff. And again, when we get into boundaries, we'll talk more about this. But for now, I just want you to do the mind work as you go through your day. That's about them. That's not about me. That's about them. That's not about me. And do the just because. Usually I hold both hands out in front of me and I say on the left hand, just because they, and then the right hand, doesn't mean I. In other words, just because they may not like it doesn't mean I shouldn't do this. Just because I need help doesn't mean I'm selfish or needy. Just because I'm scared doesn't mean I can't do this. Just because others held me back in the past doesn't mean I have to let them now. Just because my partner or best friend might be jealous, afraid, angry, doesn't mean I don't deserve this good stuff, because their stuff is about them. And then just keep setting it aside, kick the can, say, tomorrow I'll deal with that. When you get up tomorrow, kick it again. Because really, you can't control anything about another person. They have to deal with their own feelings. And when we detach, we lovingly respect them for that. And we stop making their stuff about us. You can't really work on yourself until first you separate out all the ingredients that belong to other people. So in other words, I want your focus to be on the inside, not the outside. It's going to be natural for you to want to start comparing. I get that. But keep boomeranging back to you in these moments. Refocus on the pieces in front of you that you're actually working on. Don't give up. Growth begets growth. And remember, keep asking yourself, what would I start doing right now if I wasn't afraid? And why am I afraid again? Is that really, really true? And basically, if you can start focusing on, when the fear comes up, say, okay, wait a minute, what is more important than the fear? Just like the person who jumps in the water and saves the drowning person, because that person drowning was more important in the moment than any fear of not being able to swim well, or maybe not being able to swim at all. There are people who have done that. It's amazing to me. Maybe honoring yourself is more important than your fear. Now again, I want to normalize some of the fears that come up when we start to really take responsibility for ourselves. And a lot of that comes from, and you'll hear me say this a lot in many different ways over the episodes, it comes from not trusting ourselves. Because commitment, when we commit to something and actually follow through, that's very vulnerable. That's taking a risk. It's a hell of a lot less riskier to just say, well, they won't let me do that, or they won't help me, or they won't give me the money, or because of this, that, and the third, I can't do it. When we outsource that responsibility, we're also outsourcing the risk. The risk of falling on our face, of making the wrong decision, of looking ridiculous, of failing, of letting ourselves down, of getting there and, God forbid, realizing that's not what I wanted in the first place. In other words, risking not being correct, not being right, not being perfect, and therefore not being okay. That is why so many times people don't do this work until something or someone kicks them in the butt. Something bad happens. They hit a bottom, and all of a sudden, something is more important than the fears I just mentioned. Something is more valuable. They're sick and tired of being sick and tired. So my question for you is, are you ready? Not that you're not afraid, but can you define what is becoming more important than the fear of risking, of committing? I remember years ago, I said, okay, I'll do this one thing. And if it doesn't work out, I can back out. I had to give myself an out because it was a huge commitment. And it was hilarious because the first quarter way through, I'm sitting there and someone said out loud, do you ever just feel like you're right where you're supposed to be? And I just froze. And I was like, yes. I had to go the quarter way in, though. I never would have known that. I had to experience that. And I wasn't even, it's funny because I was enjoying myself so much. I was learning so much. I was growing. I was just immersed in it that I forgot about that risk. Like, am I doing the right thing? So that's what I'm talking about. Just start out. Do one thing. There's so many things you can tweak and change as you go, too. And that's another important concept in this. And we need to get out of the perfect and horrible dichotomy, the all or nothing, the black or white. And we need to get into what's called more open and flexible thinking. Tell yourself, let me try this one thing. Let me see how it goes, because I'll have objective data to really evaluate it. And that'll help guide me. That'll guide me to what the next step might be. I don't have to have all the answers today. That's what's so cool. Just begin. Just press play. Just start. Just start. Just honor yourself by at least not being immobilized, not letting yourself down anymore. I mean, look what you've already done today. Know that you make sense. Just start practicing that a little bit each day. Just see what quietly keeps showing up, because you are being guided. Know that your gut will twist and you'll feel anxious if not, even if you don't see any real, tangible reasons why you shouldn't trust it. I mean, look what you've already done today. You've already started. Be satisfied with what you created, a metaphorical safe place where you guard your treasures. You take responsibility for what you want, and you will continue to nurture and feed it. So get some loving accountability around you, because this can slowly and insidiously break down, and we can let the toxic in before we even know what happened. So next time we're going to dig in defining needs. Needs, not wants, remember. Needs that we all have, each and every one of us, and why they are as important as breathing. So you can go to the ownitpowercast.com and look at the show notes page. There you can sign up to get the downloads. If you're already a tribe member and signed up, you'll get those emailed to you automatically each week. So hey, if you found this helpful, please put out a positive review. You'll be helping others find this podcast and get the help they need. So pay it forward, keep focusing on you, and I'll see you next time.
We hope you took away some useful insights and tools you can begin using right away. If you did, please leave a positive review and share on your social media. Because could you imagine if everyone in your life really got it together? Remember, own it now, so you can really own it later.